Hi everyone. So I picked some Word documents that I use here in my classroom to evaluate both of these Word documents. Let me see if I can show you the other one also. Are kind of accountability sheets that I use with my guided reading groups during their small group centers. They have to fill out these papers and they bring them back to me and I check them and they kind of hold them accountable for what they read and were they really thinking about what they were reading, whether it was just reading a book the old-fashioned way or reading a book on our Epic app within the classroom. So when looking at the web accessibility at PCC defines web accessibility um, as a piece of content that benefits students with visual, hearing, mobility, and all learning disabilities. So it's directly in line with the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, and basically this document is laid out really nicely and it's just kind of helping us as educators make sure that we are making our content accessible for all students no matter what their needs are. So I picked these forms because I'm wondering if I want to use them at all next year, and I'm thinking that there's probably a better way to do this, to hold students accountable for what they're working on when they're in their independent centers. And I definitely think there's an opportunity to showcase some technology here with these as well, rather than just using a Word document that they fill out and take home. So when looking at the web accessibility guidelines for Word documents, they talk about headings, making sure your headings are properly formatted. And I think I have that fine here, but for the Epic sheet, I just titled it, "Wow, that book was epic." Then they have to tell me what they read, and they have to rate it with some stars. A very quick activity because it usually takes them almost the entire time in their center to read the book. I want to make sure that this paper is not holding them back and that they're actually reading most of the time rather than filling out a paper like this. But I'm wondering if some titles and headings would be necessary on this reading sheet. They are prompted to put in the title of the book, one thing they liked, and one thing that they would change. Again, thinking some titles, maybe some bold. Parents might not really be understanding what these are, especially this one, this page over here, when they come home. So I think some headings would definitely showcase that a little bit better. I don't really have any lists and I don't have any links. Something that I'm considering, if I were to put this online as online content, I would definitely want a link to the Epic website. It'd be cool if you could click this little logo here and it would take you right there, but I'm really not sure how to do that. So no links necessary there. I don't have any tables. I did use some color, but I normally print this in black and white just to kind of save on color ink. And I think the color contrast is sufficient. I made sure my stars are black and white so they can color them in. And form fields. I made sure my form fields were double spaced, appropriate handwriting size for first graders. And I think that they definitely read in order. Things make sense logically. Today they read, and then how many stars they give it. Today they read. One thing that they liked about the book, and then one thing they would change, and again, the stars for the rating system. Some connections to UDL checkpoint 1.2. I was thinking of combining this with my, using this same idea, same concept of the accountability checks with my Class Dojo site. So let me see if I can get into Class Dojo here. And basically my idea for this is that rather than filling out the worksheet, students could post on their student story. They could do this with an emoji, like a picture of the book, maybe, so that parents could see the title. And then they could put an emoji with it and just kind of, how did you feel about it? They could also do one sentence explaining why they put that emoji there. I think this would be really engaging for students. Also, if this were done on Dojo, let me switch to the student mode here. If this were done on Dojo, students would also have the opportunity, I'll get out of that. Students would also have the opportunity to, let me show you a student story, just so you can get an idea. So I post their chapter stuff on here, their math tests, and all kinds of notes to parents. But I can add photos on here, I can have files on here, and they can do the same thing on their view. It's not accessing my camera right now because of the screencast. But so my idea was to have students post a picture of the book on there and rate it with an emoji and maybe a sentence explaining the emoji. But that, I think, allows me some room for differentiation. I often have some pretty low readers in my classroom for reading intervention, so some of them really aren't going to be capable of typing a sentence on the iPad to go along with it. The emoji is probably as good as it's going to get for some of them, which is fine. I'm also thinking maybe, another means of differentiation and making this more accessible would be to have students record a video of themselves kind of giving an evaluation of the book. Then they can go into detail about what they would change, what they liked about it. The video provides more of an opportunity for all students, I think, and it doesn't limit them based on what their writing abilities are. So that's where I'm going with that idea. So I definitely think at this point I've ruled out the fact that I'm going to use these worksheets next year because I think there's definitely some more accessible ways to do this and some more effective ways to do this. Going back to the UDL checkpoint 3.4, I really think using Dojo is maximizing the transfer and generalization. It prompts paraphrasing, it embeds a new idea in a familiar context, it can be revisited over time. Students and parents can go back to that student story on Class Dojo and pull up what they did last week. That could provide a basis for a text-to-text connection. Maybe they're like, hey, I read a book last week that had a similar idea in it. Let me go back on my student story and see if I can recall what that was all about and kind of compare the two and do some further evaluation. I definitely think that the worksheets themselves are simply not accessible for students with heavy visual impairments. But I would hope that students with that kind of visual impairment would also come with some sort of assistive technology or tool that would help me accommodate to this as well. And I think that would obviously all be outlined in some sort of IEP or record of need for accommodation. Mobility impairments, I'm thinking more of fine motor skill in this department. And that could definitely limit kiddos, obviously, with the writing portion on both of these. So again, I think that it would probably be best to record a video for those students and shorten the paper assignment. But again, if they do have fine motor problems, that's kind of a catch-22 because they probably need the work with the paper and pencil and holding the pencil the right way. So maybe just shorten it then, like on this one, they wouldn't have to tell me one thing that they changed. They could just tell me one thing that they liked. Or maybe I just want them to write the title. Just accommodate for an individual need on that basis. So that's kind of a catch-22. But overall, I definitely think that there's a lot of room for improvement with these two particular pieces of content that I use in my classroom And I think that next year I will definitely be trying to incorporate some technology here and make it accessible to all of my students no matter what their educational needs are.